The next question is about your working with digital technologies and communication since the last century. So, for example, in the bugs of computer and politics, information politics in the digital age, and lots of one. So, from this, what would be the main impact of the internet on politics and societies, also taking into account the issue of fake news and it's massive used by lots of people like Donald Trump and Bolsonaro as well, uh,
Yeah.
because in Brazil we have a bad effect of the assault of journalists and about this scenario. What do you think about this bad effect that the fifth state can have as well if not used by good things?
Okay. Let let me uh, address partly this issue of the fake news and misinformation, and then go back to what I think are the main political implications of the internet. But the um, I think it's really important that not every networked individual is a member of the fifth estate. Okay, the fifth estate is, think back in terms of the fourth estate, the press. If you're a commercial press, if you're basically too commercial, or your government, your state press, you know, governed by the state, you are not an independent press entity. You are not a fourth estate member. The whole concept of a fourth estate depends upon the press being relatively independent of government or commercial concerns. All right. So, likewise, with respect to the fifth estate, uh, among networked individuals, I regard the fifth estate as those that are really public spirited and not malicious users, not the mob. But it used to be, I mean, when the idea of the estates of the realm, you know, in uh, the days of Burke and Carlyle and others, there was no public other than the mob. I mean, it was the government and the clergy and aristocrats, and the people were sort of viewed as the mob outside the gates, and it was not a democratic society at that time. The whole idea of a fourth estate was the idea that the press brought in the influence of people, and I think that it's amazing today. I think in today's, you know, just currently, uh, particularly in the U.S. I'm not, you know, I'm not living in the U.S. now, but just following media there, it is, it's incredible the degree to which people think of the public as almost the mob, uh, not just because the protesters for Trump and the mob around the Capitol, but just they don't trust the public anymore. I mean, they believe the public are all fools and able, you know, accepting of any information that they see online and so forth. So what we define as the fifth estate are those people who use the internet, and not malicious users, but who use the internet actively in terms of search, but also post or create information online, and uh, and have the ability to do that, even if they're not political. So if a person is an understands how to use search and can post information, even, and uh, do video blogs or text blogs or create their own information as well, then potentially they can hold individuals and institutions accountable, such as by filming a incident on the street, or interviewing somebody that they know, or writing about a problem in their city, or taking a picture of dirty water in Flint, Michigan, and so forth. So there's but if people are committing fraud or maliciously sending information, then I don't regard them as just as a crooked politician is not a respected politician. So and there are mobs still, and it's a real controversy. I think that the protesters in Capitol Hill probably were uniformly called a mob by the press and by politicians, but I thought they started as protesters, and I think if they had had adequate protection of the Capitol, there would have just been another Trump protest and another, but it was a what I would call a democracy disaster, and disasters happen because a lot of things go wrong. But so I think the Fifth Estate are a subgroup of those people who are networked individuals and who use and they're different from institutions. Again, all institutions, press, political parties, even political movements use the internet to support their political movement. But say even a political movement, the Fifth Estate is relevant because political movements have a more difficult time now because individuals within the movement can say, wait a second, we're not pursuing the aims that the leaders said we were pursuing. So they can actually become an independent force that hold their movement accountable. So the Fifth Estate is not equivalent to a political movement. It's not equivalent to populism or anything else, but I think some of the attitudes and values of populism, that is, feeling that politicians should listen to the public and that they should have they have a role in shaping public opinion and public policy, are relevant to the Fifth Estate. Now, where am I going to this? But I think, I mean, I try to identify. I think about it when I tried to use the survey data to say what proportion of the public are members of the Fifth Estate. I came up with about a third in terms of their behavior and how they behave. For example, people who just simply watch the internet are not the Fifth Estate. If you're just a consumer, you don't post, you don't blog, you don't. You're basically using it as an entertainment media or to watch streaming video. Or this is not the Fifth Estate, and nor malicious users. Or but I think the problem is trying to stop malicious use of the internet and other things. We could undermine the Fifth Estate, and so it's important for people to recognize the difference and that there are ways of dealing with malicious use. Like one of the things I'm doing now is working on a cybersecurity project at a center, and I think at some point, cybersecurity, for example, is critical to the future of the internet. If we can't deal with those issues and make people resilient to security problems, then the future of the internet is at stake.